What is going on, everyone? Welcome to another very exciting episode right here on the MIgardener channel. In today's episode, we're going to talk all about what happens and what you can do when your garlic starts to sprout too early. Now, I woke up this morning and it was like the floodgates opened. I think it's because a lot of you are experiencing the same weather that we've been experiencing. And so a lot of you have been concerned about your garlic because when I opened up my inbox this morning, it was just flooded with emails and messages about garlic. What happens when it sprouts too early? Is it going to die if it sprouts too early? What can I do if it sprouts too early? If it sprouts too early, is it going to produce? If it sprouts too early, is it going to die? If it sprouts too early, is there any way I can make it stop sprouting? And I laugh at that one because it was fairly funny because I wish that was true. I wish I could just be like, hey, stop it, or like point to a weed and just be like, you stop. I wish there was something you could do to stop a plant from growing. However, you can't. So that being said, I don't want to crush your hopes and dreams by saying you can't stop something from happening, but garlic will do what it wants to do. If garlic is growing, that means the conditions are right for it. And unfortunately, those conditions sometimes can happen sooner than we want. So you'll probably recall we planted this garlic in the first week of October. Now, we planted it then because we didn't know the future. We didn't know that it was going to stay warm as long as it did. In fact, we expected our first frost to happen around like late October, October 20th to October 25th. But this garlic here, as you can see from all the different sprouts here, that it has had too much warm weather for too long and it's starting to grow. Now, when it grows, as I said, you can't stop it. You can't just say like, hey, it's a little too early for you. It's not like a kid where it's like, hey, you woke up too early, go back to bed. The sun's not up yet. You can't do that. It doesn't care. And so because of that, obviously we have, these are the cards we've been dealt. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to talk about what happens if it does start to sprout too early, and maybe put to rest some of your concerns. So the first thing I want to put to rest is the question of, is my garlic going to die? If your garlic sprouts too early, it's not going to die. Garlic is very cold hardy. In fact, it requires cold weather in order to actually create the heads of garlic that you're going to harvest the next year. That's the process called vernalization. So if you live in a really warm climate that doesn't get winter, you have to throw your garlic in the fridge for 3 to 5 weeks in order for it to actually form any type of garlic head that you're going to be able to harvest. So it's very important for you to have winter weather. So no, it's not going to die. I know a lot of gardeners kind of think like if it sprouts too early, it's just going to like freeze to death or something. And that's not the case. Now, what can happen is if it grows too much and it grows too tall, the top can actually die back. Now, the plant itself won't die back, but the top will die back. That's in really severe cases. If your plant gets like 5 to 7 inches tall, like if it's like fully grown, and then you get winter, the top can actually die back. And that will cause a few other negative side effects, obviously. The plant won't die, but the plant will just kind of die back down to the bulb. And then what it'll do is it'll actually split, or it'll fork. And when it splits, rather than have one plant, you're essentially going to have 2 plants. That's the way it divides. All onions will do this. All alliums will do this. So like onions, shallots, garlic, chives, they're no exception. And so you'd think, well, 2 plants, I'm going to get 2 garlic heads. It's not quite how it works. And that's because it spends so much energy actually dividing into 2 separate plants that you don't actually get 2 separate heads of garlic. It's more like 2 giant cloves of garlic. They won't really have a head to them. They're just going to be like a single bulb. And that's because they just grew too much. And then they said, well, we have so much energy, let's just split. And so they kind of fracture, and then they grow 2 separate plants. So that can happen, but the plants don't die. The third thing that I want to address is, since no, you can't have it stop, and no, it won't die, the third question that gets asked is, will it affect my yields? And that's kind of like we just talked about, and that's a maybe. It might affect yields if the plants get really big. Now in our case, the plants are just starting to grow. I mean, we only have about 1.5 inches to 2 inches of plants growing, of plant, growing above the soil surface. So that's not really what I would consider to be growing too fast. That's not overgrown. So in the event that your plant gets overgrown, yes, it can definitely affect yields next year. Now, the other thing to kind of take into consideration is, will it produce? Now, if it's just like this, absolutely, it'll produce just fine. However, it also might go to flower a lot sooner. Now, garlic going to flower is normal. Again, this is all normal. None of this is like, oh my gosh, my garlic's flowering. It'll happen. It produces what's called escape. Now, onions, they'll all flower, right? Shallots will all flower. But garlic, depending on the variety, either will or won't flower. If it's a hard neck, it'll flower. If it's a soft neck, it won't. And that just comes down to variety differences. However, if it is a hard neck and it grows too soon, what it can do is it can flower too soon. And if it flowers too soon, much like dividing, like if it gets really, really, really big, right? It might have so much energy that it says, I don't really want to focus on flowering. I'm just going to focus on dividing. It's just going to split into 2 different plants. But if it starts growing like this, and say we get like 3 to 5 inches tall, and so it's not like fully grown, what it might focus on doing is just flowering next year. If it flowers too soon, the same exact thing will happen, where it's not really going to focus a lot of energy on creating big heads. Now, you will get a head of garlic, yes. So that's at least some positive news. If it starts growing too soon, you might actually end up with like just a really miniature head of garlic and like a really big flower stalk because it's flowering too early. So just some things to kind of consider that can happen when your garlic starts to grow a little sooner than you expected. But no, it's not going to die. Yes, it'll still produce in most cases. I'd say like 75% of the time, 80% of the time. If you get garlic growing now, it'll be fine. So the odds are in your favor. And then the fourth thing that people ask is, my garlic is growing too soon. What can I do? And the answer is nothing. Nothing other than what you normally would do. Make sure that you keep it well watered. Do not stop watering it. I have a lot of people that ask, if I stop watering it, will it slow its growth? No, it needs water just like any other plant. So keep watering it. The conditions are the conditions you're given, so just keep watering it. Yes, keep fertilizing it. If you haven't fertilized yet, make sure to give it a nice all-purpose fertilizer to get it established, get it through winter. People say, well, if I don't fertilize, it's going to grow slower. Well, yeah, it's also going to be stressed, so you don't want to do that. Keep fertilizing it. There's nothing different there. And yes, mulch. I have not yet mulched mine, but that's because my garlic is just starting to sprout. Once your garlic gets about 1 inch above the soil, that is normal. That's actually highly recommended. You want your garlic to be somewhat established because it has less of a chance of rotting and dying. If it doesn't sprout at all, then you have issues. So once our garlic gets about 1 inch to 1.5 inches above the soil, we actually mulch it. And you want to do that as well to kind of put it to bed for the winter. That's going to insulate the soil. It's going to reduce compaction in the soil. It's going to help the bulbs come out of dormancy faster in the spring. And so it's a great idea. Now, what do we mulch it with? Well, we use things like rabbit bedding. We actually use the cedar chips. You can get them from any pet supply store, a big bale of it. We have lots of videos on, it's called like the best weed-free mulch that we found for garlic and onions. I think that's what it was called. So so definitely mulch. You can use like rabbit bedding or like cedar chips, pine shavings, things like that. It's phenomenal for garlic because of the fact that it's very spongy, it's very lightweight, it's going to insulate the soil, but it's not going to bring any like weed seeds and things in that are going to compete with your onions and garlic and other like alliums, because they don't have really big leaves. They have really small spindly leaves. So weeds are your biggest enemy. And so this is a great weed-free option. And it's phenomenal because of the fact that it's so lightweight that in the springtime, the plants kind of just grow up through it. They don't actually get like mulched by it. They kind of just grow up right through the pine shavings. So make sure to mulch your plants, and that's about all you can do. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I hope you learned something new. If you were concerned, hopefully I laid those concerns to rest. If you did enjoy, and you did learn something new, make sure to throw a like up there. Subscribe if you've not yet already. We have lots more content coming out. And also, make sure to share this video with a friend. We rely so heavily on word of mouth, and it means so much to me when you entrust your friend's time with our video and your friend's garden with our video. So thank you guys so much. Have a great day, and remember to grow big or go home. We'll catch you all in the next episode. Hi, see you guys. Bye.